you're trying to legislate a woman's body, get on board or move out of the way, because women, we're not having it. We deserve better than what Washington is giving us now. No average citizen needs an assault weapon. Think about how much worse it would get if we do not get a Joe Biden reelected.
I am here with MaryAnn Carr, a Democrat running to represent New York's 17th Congressional District, looking to unseat Republican Michael Laurer in a very flippable seat. Now, MaryAnn, could you give us your background and what you think makes you the perfect candidate to move New York forward in 2024?
First of all, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
Yes, I am a candidate for the congressional seat in New York District 17. And what makes me the perfect candidate is because I am what the district is mostly like, a working class family, trying to support a family. I have a daughter, I'm a single mom, and currently Washington is just not working for the working middle class families. And that needs to stop. It needs to stop now. Everything is all about partisan politics. And when I look at the things that really are impacting our daily lives, it is gun safety, women's rights to freedom of choice. These are the things that I have been championing and working for forever. I had freedom of choice. It was available to me in my generation, and now it has been stripped away, and it becomes very personal because I have a 25-year-old daughter that I'm fighting for, and others in her generations and the generations to come. So I stand here as a candidate knowing what it feels like to have your rights stripped away. I grew up in a small town in Mississippi where Jim Crow laws were still being enacted upon. And so I know what it feels like to not have basic civil rights and not be protected with basic freedoms. And so my parents worked for the Voting Rights Act. They worked for women's choice. And here we are today in 2024, and all of that has been rolled back with the stroke of a pen by a Supreme Court.
Yeah, and before we get into some of the specific issues that you covered, I wanted to ask, being in the thick of your campaign, getting to talk to voters all around the district, what is the main issue that you're hearing from them, and what are you going to do to tackle that head on?
Well, some of the main issues are gun legislation, having some common sense gun legislation policy, because we are in an epidemic of, people having assault weapons and endangering the welfare of children in schools and in other public venues. So that's one of the things. Climate action is a big issue in this district. Also, just having some affordable homes. I mean, there are many people in this district that are struggling just to have a decent place to live and live independently because there are no affordable homes that are available. There are not enough affordable homes. And so we're in a crisis.
And that's great to hear, because those are a lot of the questions that I have are formulated around those exact things. I wanted to start with gun safety, because the data pretty clearly bears out that the stricter your gun laws are, the less gun deaths that you're going to see in the state. And New York can be a good representation of that, as they have some of the stricter gun laws currently and one of the lower rates of gun deaths at just over 5 per 100,000. However, obviously all gun deaths are still an issue. So I did want to get your stance on gun safety. It seems like obviously you're pretty pro gun safety, but what kind of laws would you support to see those numbers stay low or even get lower?
Well, first of all, New York has enacted some laws, but those laws need to be rolled out across the country, which is the red flag laws, the background checks. Look at what happened in Buffalo. Although we had really some more regulated gun safety laws in the state of New York, that person drove from out of state to Buffalo, New York, to target this community of people, everyday citizen who was just going about their business, going about their personal lives, going to the grocery store, and shot up all these innocent people. So we're fighting for gun legislation, common sense policies to be rolled out across the country. That's the only way we're able to control assault weapons. No one needs an assault weapon. You don't need an assault weapon for sporting, for gaming. You don't. You don't need it. No average citizen needs an assault weapon.
How is this something that you would work with Republicans on getting it passed federally? Something you see a lot of Republicans be more on the pro-gun side, wanting more lax gun laws. How do you reach those kind of people?
Well, that's a great thing that you asked, because I think I'm one of the candidates, or the only candidate, that has really had to reach across the aisles, because as a town council person and as a supervisor, when I was town council here in the town of Bedford, we had a bipartisan board and we were able to get things done. We built some affordable homes. And of course, at the time that we were taking the votes to move to affordable homes and, to try to find a solution here in this local area, it required more than just the Democrats to vote on the local town board. So I would need to work with Republicans, someone who are obviously don't carry my same label. That's the whole thing, is be able to work with other people who, have a different of opinion, being able to listen and come to, it's all about trying to negotiate and come to a common ground where we both feel like at least that we've made some progress. Maybe we don't both get all what we need, but at least we're able to get something. So if we're able to move the needle forward at all, at least that's a little more safety than we had before. So I've worked with Republicans before. I've worked with people in other parties, independent parties before, and I tend to continue to do that. I've done it on the local level. I've done it on the state level, and I will continue to do that.
Yeah, that's very exciting to hear that you have the experience actually working with the other side and those coming from all walks of life, as especially nowadays, the kind of hyper partisanship we see where everyone is going more so away from the middle and you see them less likely to work together. The House isn't able to even work amongst themselves, let alone with the Democrats in the House. So it will be exciting to get some fresh voices in there that are willing to reach across the aisle. Another one of those topics that is a big friction point for Republicans and Democrats is women's reproductive rights. New York currently is pretty protective on those, with abortion able up to fetal viability, Medicare and Medicaid and state funds able to fund these things. I wanted to get your position on those. Obviously, it seems you're pretty pro-choice. And then also, how would you work with Republicans to ensure this is something that women nationwide can see?
The women's freedom of choice is really impacting women all across the nation, and particularly Black and Brown and people who are, really vulnerable in terms of not having the access, not having the economic means. I mean, when I look at the state that I was born and raised in, I mean, it's against the law for a woman there to be able to have an abortion. When I look at Texas, these laws are just, they go against a woman's basic rights to manage and control her own body. And so I look at how the Republicans have just said, a total ban on all abortions. That's just totally wrong. It's totally wrong. It's, you're trying to legislate a woman's body in this day and time. And I look at it as unconstitutional. So unless they get on board, this is one of those items where there's little room for negotiation. Get on board or move out of the way, because women, we're not having it. We're not going to stand here and let the Supreme Court strip us of those rights and we not be able to govern our own body, especially in the time of incest, rape, health to the woman, to the mother. It is unconstitutional to think that they make no exceptions, and even in those extreme circumstances, for a woman to have an abortion. And so I will work hard. I will work with anyone who's willing to work with me, whether it be Republicans or whomever. And I think that Democrats are already on board. You just can't, you can't roll us back and take us back in time and tell us just to sit back quietly and think we're going to take it. We are going to be out advocating and working toward getting laws to bring back a woman's freedom of choice to control and to make decisions about her own body, and also not to penalize doctors and the medical team that services her. So it's been a real fight, and as you can see across the country, it's a referendum. It's a referendum, really, on America, that women, we are willing to stand up and fight for this. And if you make this a law, we will get enough signatures and put it on the ballot, and we will get this policy passed one state at a time if that's what we have to do.
It's definitely something that should remain between a woman and her doctor. And you can see how increasingly unpopular, like the Republican Party has grown since overturning things like Roe v. Wade. Women have really spoken up, and even men coming to the defense of, hey, like women deserve the right to choose just like everybody else. And the thing that I find disturbing with a lot of these states that are banning abortion is they're opting out of programs like the free school lunches. They're opting out of things like more accessible childcare or pre-K for parents. Are these the kind of programs that you would support? I like to ask people, regardless of what side of the issue they fall on, are these the kind of issues that you could see yourself supporting?
Absolutely. A child deserves to have a nutritional meal at school. Many times there are children who go to school who parents work. Sometimes they have to work multiple jobs, and they don't have they don't have all the excess time to prepare meals. And sometimes they don't have the funds to prepare a nutritional meal, a lunch or dinner. And so many times these children, that's the only meal that they're getting for the day. So absolutely, I will support, some efforts to have policy such that kids are fed in school, especially low income children. The need is great.
Yeah, and that's refreshing. And kids definitely deserve to have people fight for them and their well-being overall, especially people who consider themselves pro-life, but then often circumvent programs like this once they come into our society. To kind of jump topics to something that's always blown my mind, which is climate change, in terms of the fact that it's even a debate among Republicans or something that people question. I think it's rather irresponsible to hold positions like that. And it's something that New York can feel the direct effects of in multiple ways, from like flooding, erosion, storm surges, and like Long Island, New York City. What are some measures that you as a congresswoman would support to kind of combat this issue?
But climate change is a real issue, and it must first of all be acknowledged. I think the Republicans don't even acknowledge that we have a climate issue. I mean, when we look at, like you said, the erosions, the just the in terms of just the deterioration of quality of life because of lack of climate action initiatives. But I would support any legislation that had to do with trying to really bring much more climate actions initiatives, such as, using more electric cars, making it affordable, putting in more charging station, creating green energy jobs.
A lot of people don't realize how it's a lot of the little things that you can do that kind of add up to make the big effect, especially when you're looking back in hindsight. There was one more thing that I wanted to talk about while we still had the time before the interview was over. Seeing as you're in New York, you're running to represent New York. New York is a sanctuary state, something that is also quite the hotbed issue nowadays, where me personally, I feel like with immigration as a whole, misinformation kind of comes in and misplaces truth with the Republican narrative and what's true or not. So I wanted to get the opinion from somebody in a sanctuary state running to represent a sanctuary state on what your opinion is on the matter.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that, we treat everyone with decency. We value every human life. Every human being is important. No one is above and no one is below. And so we try to have a welcoming environment here in New York, and we don't really discriminate against anyone based on where they come from. So it's challenging. Obviously, it's challenging to find all the resources that we need. We need help from the federal government. We need help from the state as well. just to be able to find decent housing. And I know that, some of the immigrants that were bused here are living in Westchester County. Some of them are, we're trying to fast track them into getting them working papers so that they can go out and work and earn a living for themselves because they do want to be independent. They didn't come here to live off anyone. They escaped some type of persecution or war or dangerous situation. They traveled for miles and miles with their families, with small children. And so even that type of drive and motivation lets you know that they're here, and many of them are contributing. If we look around in the district, many of them are contributing in the service industry. And so the economy is really benefits from many of them being here.
And that's one of the main messages I try to push on my channel as well, is that the immigrants are a net benefit to our economy, from keeping prices down in certain sectors to working in jobs that would otherwise be empty, and there's shortages in labor. And that's why a lot of the times you also see Republicans trying to pull back child labor laws, because they're trying to preempt the replacement of the labor that we rely on for immigrants currently. And even in sanctuary cities and states, you can see the statistical benefits where there's 35.5 less crimes per 10,000 people in sanctuary cities. The median income is higher, poverty is a little bit lower, and households on SNAP benefits are also lower. So that's great. I just wanted to ask you your perspective. You're one of the first people running in New York or in a sanctuary state, I guess, anywhere in the country, that I could have asked your opinion. Before we did wrap up, I wanted to give you a chance. If there were any topics maybe we didn't cover that you wanted to speak on, you can shout out your website. If there's any events or anything like that, the floor is yours. You can let the people know.
Thank you, Brandon. This has been wonderful appearing on your show today. And I would like to give everyone an opportunity to go to my website to learn a little bit more about me. You can find me at MaryAnn, MaryAnn 4FORNY.com. And I am a mother. I raised a beautiful, confident, compassionate, loving, strong daughter. And I've been living in this district for a couple of decades. I've been fighting for our residents. I've never moved away. I stayed here during the hard times. I was a supervisor here in the town of Bedford. I was a supervisor during COVID time. So I made it possible for the vaccine to come to town so that our senior citizen could have a more convenient way to access the vaccine. I have been championing climate action initiatives for years now. We have, in the town of Bedford, we are considered a platinum town for climate action initiatives. And most of those efforts have happened during my tenure as the council person and supervisor. And it continues to go on to this day. I am working really hard, and my team is working really hard to get on the ballot. So if you would like to really carry a petition for MaryAnn Carr for Congress, New York 17th District, please reach out. You can reach out to me at 914-843-2085 or go to my website and pick up an email and send it to me. I will stay the course. I will not give up. I will not quit on the district. I will not quit on the residents. I will continue this fight along with you. We deserve better than what Washington is giving us now. And the majority rule in Washington is not working for any of us. They're at a standstill because they're just divided by politics. And that's a scandal. And it's ridiculous to have a majority just sitting there, not acting upon on behalf of the people who sent them to Washington. So I will continue to work, and I will work across the aisles. I've done it before, and I know how to listen. My background is information technology, and I work for multinational corporations, and I have a BS in computer science, and I also have a master's in organizational leadership, both from public schools. So I am a public school person, and I know the value of public schools and funding our education for our children to have quality education. So I will fight for those things, and I will fight for that we get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. It is just unthinkable to think that John Lewis, what he fought for, it was Bloody Sunday is tomorrow. The anniversary of Bloody Sunday, 59th anniversary is tomorrow. And to think that that's sitting on the desk, held up by the House majority, currently Republicans, and they will not sign this. And so we need to move forward. We have to move forward. And this is how we do it, by electing people who are willing to work for you and not just really sitting there talking about politics and not moving things forward. They won't even vote on the immigration bill that the Republicans actually helped to develop. They helped to develop it. It was a bipartisan bill, and now they want to hold it out because their leader, Trump, is really acting as Speaker of the House and giving orders. And so now that's just being held up, and we're at a crisis in the country, and people need to understand that. And I say to everyone, whether you are really believing in this election and question what one party has done for you or not, think about how much worse it would get if we do not get a Joe Biden reelected, and if we do not gain back the House.
Thank you again. And guys, remember, if you enjoyed anything that she said, if you want to keep up with her campaign, help her petition, or donate, the link to her website will be the first one in the description of this video. MaryAnn, again, thank you very much for taking time to speak with me. It was a wonderful conversation. I wish you the best of luck getting on the ballot in your election race, and maybe we can speak again going forward.
Thank you, Brandon. My pleasure.
Awesome. See ya. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.